The agents are in the dining room now, and the sight of them makes my heart sing with vindication. Federal agents don't make house calls unless something serious has been violated, something that belongs to all of us, something that can't be stolen or sold or destroyed without consequences that echo through the legal system like thunder. Candace Whitmore, one of them says, and her name sounds different when it's spoken by someone who has the power to arrest her. It sounds smaller, more fragile, less intimidating than when she uses it to sign forged documents or introduce herself at social gatherings where she performs respectability like a well-rehearsed play. Yes, she responds, and now her voice is definitely shaking. The performance is cracking, the mask is slipping, and underneath it all I can see the small, frightened woman who thought she could steal from the federal government and call it business sense. You're under arrest for wire fraud, forgery, and unlawful sale of federally protected property. The words hang in the air like a judgment pronounced by the universe itself. Wire fraud, forgery, unlawful sale of federally protected property. Each charge carries its own penalties, its own mandatory sentences, its own life-destroying consequences. Combined, they represent years of federal prison time, financial ruin, social disgrace, and professional destruction. The rage in my chest explodes into something close to euphoria. This is what justice looks like when it finally arrives. This is what happens when arrogance meets consequence, when theft meets accountability, when someone who destroys other people's lives discovers that their own life can be destroyed just as easily. Candace is sputtering now, trying to explain, trying to justify, trying to blame everyone except herself for the crimes she committed. She's pointing at me, claiming I knew about the sale, claiming I approved it, claiming she had permission to forge my signature and sell my property without my knowledge. But her lies don't matter anymore. The evidence speaks louder than her excuses, and the evidence is overwhelming. Forged documents, illegal wire transfers, federal property sold without authorization. These are facts that can't be explained away with charm or manipulation or practiced innocence. My son is crying now, actually crying, as he realizes that his complicity in this crime might destroy his own life too. He's stammering apologies, swearing he didn't know the property was federally protected, claiming he thought I had given permission for the sale. But his ignorance doesn't absolve him any more than Candace's arrogance absolves her. Ignorance of the law isn't a defense, and participating in fraud isn't excused by family pressure or marital obligation. He chose to help his wife steal from his mother, and now he's going to face the consequences of that choice alongside her. The pain in my heart is different now, sharper but cleaner. It's the pain of watching your child destroy themselves through their own poor choices, but it's mixed with the satisfaction of knowing that justice is being served regardless of family loyalty or personal affection. Love doesn't excuse crime, and blood doesn't override law. They're reading Candace her rights now, explaining her legal options, preparing to take her away in handcuffs while her dinner guests watch in horrified fascination. The catered meal sits cooling on the table, an obscene monument to her greed and stupidity. She spent my stolen money on this performance, this celebration of her criminal success, and now it's serving as the backdrop for her arrest. The irony is so perfect it feels orchestrated by a cosmic sense of humor. She wanted to celebrate disposing of my useless cabin, and instead she's created the perfect setting for her own downfall. She wanted to demonstrate her superiority over the sentimental old woman she married into the family, and instead she's proving that underestimating old women is a mistake that can cost you everything. The rage is transforming again, becoming something more complex, more nuanced. It's still anger, but it's anger mixed with vindication, with satisfaction, with the deep contentment that comes from watching karma work its magic in real time. This woman destroyed my peace and called it progress. She stole my sanctuary and called it practical. She monetized my grief and called it business sense. Now she's going to prison for it, and she'll have years to contemplate whether it was worth it. The federal agents are explaining the charges in detail now, making sure everyone understands the scope of the criminal enterprise they're dismantling. Wire fraud carries up to 20 years in federal prison. Forgery of federal documents carries up to 10 years. Unlawful sale of protected property carries additional penalties that can include permanent criminal records, financial restitution, and civil forfeiture of assets. Candace is going to lose everything. Her business, her reputation, her freedom, her marriage, her social standing, all of it will be destroyed by the consequences of her decision to steal from me. And the beautiful part, the part that makes my heart sing with dark satisfaction, is that she did it to herself. Every signature she forged, every lie she told, every dollar she stole brought her one step closer to this moment. I didn't have to destroy her. I just had to wait while she destroyed herself. The pain in my chest is still there, but it's bearable now. Losing my cabin still hurts, but knowing that the person who stole it is going to prison for years makes the hurt manageable. My son's betrayal still cuts deep, but watching him face the consequences of his choices provides a kind of closure that forgiveness alone never could. This is what justice looks like when it finally arrives. Not perfect, not complete, not capable of undoing all the damage that's been done, but real and substantial and devastating to the people who thought they could hurt others without consequence. The agents are leading Candace away now, her hands cuffed behind her back, her perfect dinner party dress wrinkled and her perfect makeup smeared with tears. She looks smaller in handcuffs, more fragile, more human than she's ever looked while she was destroying my life piece by piece. Part of me feels sorry for her. Not because she doesn't deserve what's happening, but because she could have chosen differently at every step. She could have treated me with respect instead of contempt. She could have asked for permission instead of forging documents. She could have valued human relationships over financial gain. But she didn't. She chose greed over decency, theft over honesty, cruelty over kindness. And now she's facing the consequences of those choices, and those consequences are exactly as devastating as her crimes deserved. The house is quiet now except for the sound of my son sobbing and the whispered conversations of the dinner guests who can't decide whether to leave or stay or call lawyers or pretend this never happened. The federal agents are gone, taking Candace with them, leaving behind only the wreckage of her criminal enterprise and the expensive dinner that was supposed to celebrate her theft. I sit in this silence and feel the rage finally beginning to drain away, leaving behind something that might eventually become peace. Not today, maybe not for weeks or months, but eventually. Because justice has been served, and the person who destroyed my sanctuary is going to spend years in a place where her own freedom has been destroyed. The cabin is gone, sold to buyers who will probably never know its real history or value. My son's marriage is over, destroyed by criminal charges and federal prosecution. The family dinner has ended in handcuffs and arrest warrants. Everything Candace built, everything she worked for, everything she thought made her superior to me has been reduced to criminal charges and federal prison time. And I'm still here. Battered, grieving, betrayed, but still here. Still breathing, still thinking, still capable of rebuilding whatever needs to be rebuilt. She thought she could erase me, manage me, dispose of me like she disposed of my property. But you can't erase someone who understands that patience is the most powerful weapon you can wield against people who mistake silence for weakness. The rage is almost gone now, burned away by the heat of vindication and the satisfaction of watching justice work exactly as it should. What's left is pain, but it's clean pain, honest pain, the kind of pain that heals instead of festering. She can't hurt me anymore from federal prison. She can't steal anything else from me while she's serving her sentence. She can't manipulate my son while she's learning what real consequences feel like. I'm free of her now, and that freedom tastes sweeter than any revenge I could have planned myself. The dinner guests are leaving now, mumbling awkward goodbyes and avoiding eye contact, probably wondering how much of this disaster will end up in the local news and social media. They came here to celebrate what they thought was a smart business decision, and instead they witnessed a federal arrest for crimes they never imagined their friend was capable of committing. My son is still at the table, staring at his hands, probably trying to figure out how to explain this to his lawyer, his employer, his friends, everyone who thought they knew who he was. His life has been irrevocably changed by his decision to enable his wife's criminal behavior, and he's going to spend years dealing with the legal and social consequences of that choice. Good. Maybe consequences will teach him lessons that love apparently couldn't. Maybe facing the reality of what he helped do to me will force him to examine the man he's become and decide whether that's the man he wants to remain. Maybe federal charges will accomplish what motherly disappointment never could. The rage is completely gone now, drained away like water from a broken vessel. What remains is exhaustion, grief, vindication, and something that might eventually become forgiveness. Not today, maybe not this year, but eventually. Because I'm too old and too tired to carry anger forever, and because holding on to rage only gives the people who hurt you continued power over your emotional state. Candace will serve her sentence, and I'll rebuild my life. My son will face his consequences, and I'll decide whether there's a relationship worth salvaging when he gets out. The cabin is gone forever, but the memories it housed are still safe inside my heart where no one can steal them or sell them or turn them into commodities. She thought she had won when she sold my sanctuary for $60,000. She thought she had defeated the old woman who loved too much and grieved too deeply and remembered too clearly. She thought she had erased me from my own family and turned my grief into her profit. She was wrong about everything. I'm still here, and she's not. I'm free, and she's not. I'm going home tonight to sleep in my own bed, and she's going to a federal holding cell to wait for arraignment on charges that will define the rest of her life. The rage that sustained me through this ordeal is gone now, but what it left behind is stronger than anger ever was. What's left is clarity, purpose, and the unshakable knowledge that justice eventually finds everyone who thinks they're too smart or too powerful or too charming to face consequences for their actions. Harold used to say that the universe has a sense of humor, but it's the kind of humor that takes years to appreciate. Tonight, I finally understand what he meant. The woman who destroyed our sanctuary in the name of practicality just discovered that her practical business sense was actually federal crime. The person who dismissed my grief as sentimentality just learned that sentiment can be legally protected in ways that greed never is. She sold my peace for money, and now she's going to pay for it with years of her life. That seems like a fair trade to me. The rage is gone, but the satisfaction remains. And that satisfaction will carry me through whatever comes next, because I know now that silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. Patience isn't surrender, it's preparation. And sometimes the best revenge is simply allowing people to face the natural consequences of their own choices. Candace chose crime over kindness, theft over honesty, greed over human decency. And tonight, those choices finally caught up with her in the form of federal agents and felony charges, and the complete destruction of everything she thought made her life worth living. I didn't have to destroy her. I just had to wait while she destroyed herself. And that's a kind of justice that tastes sweeter than any revenge I could have planned. You know what rage feels like when it's been swallowing itself for months? It tastes like copper pennies and broken promises. It burns in your chest like acid, eating away at everything you thought you knew about family, about love, about the people who are supposed to protect you when the world gets too sharp around the edges. I'm sitting here at this dinner table, surrounded by laughter that sounds like glass breaking, watching my daughter-in-law stand up with that practiced smile she wears like armor. Candace. Even her name sounds like something artificial, something manufactured in a laboratory where they strip away empathy and replace it with ambition. She's raising her wine glass now, that cheap crystal that she insists is vintage, but I know came from some discount store because I've seen the price tags she forgot to remove. Everything about this woman is pretense, layers and layers of it, like makeup caked on to hide the rot underneath. "I have wonderful news to share with everyone tonight," she's saying, and my stomach clenches because I know that tone. I've heard it before, when she announced she was redecorating my late husband's study, when she threw away his books because they were cluttering the aesthetic, when she convinced my son that I needed to downsize my emotional attachments. The rage is building now, hot and thick in my throat. 43 years I've been on this earth, longer than this woman. 43 years of watching the world change, of losing people I loved, of building something meaningful with these hands that shake now, not from age, but from the effort of keeping my fury contained. I sold Mother Whitmore's old cabin for $60,000. The words hit me like a physical blow. The wine glass trembles in my grip, and I can feel my vision narrowing, the way it does when your blood pressure spikes and the world becomes a tunnel with only rage at the end of it. My cabin. My cabin. The one I built with Harold when we were young and stupid and thought love could protect us from anything. The one where we spent our anniversary every year until cancer took him from me. The one where I've been going to remember what his laugh sounded like, what his hands felt like when they weren't cold and still. She sold it. Without asking. Without even telling me. The applause around the table sounds like thunder in my ears. These people, these strangers who share my last name, clapping for the destruction of my sanctuary. My son, my own flesh and blood, he's clapping too, though I can see the guilt written across his face like a confession he's too cowardly to speak. Finally turned that useless place into real money. Candace continues, and the word useless cuts through me like a serrated knife. Useless. That place where Harold proposed to me under stars so bright they looked like scattered diamonds. Useless. That place where we spent our honeymoon learning how to love each other without the world watching. Useless. That place where I held his ashes before I scattered them into the lake, whispering promises I intended to keep forever. The rage is consuming me now, eating through my chest cavity like wildfire. I want to scream. I want to overturn this table with its expensive catering and its false celebration. I want to grab this woman by her perfectly styled hair and drag her to that lake and make her understand what she's stolen from me. But I don't. I sit here in my silence because 43 years have taught me that sometimes the most devastating weapon you can wield is patience. Sometimes justice takes its time, like a slow poison working through the bloodstream. My phone is buzzing against my leg, and I almost ignore it because who could possibly matter right now when my entire world has just been auctioned off like a garage sale item? But something makes me look at the screen, and when I see government attorney displayed there, my heart starts beating so fast I'm afraid everyone can hear it. This can't be a coincidence. The universe doesn't work that way, does it? When someone destroys your peace, does karma really call you back within the hour? Ma'am, are you aware your property is federally registered? We need to confirm something urgent. I almost laugh. I almost sob. I almost scream with relief because finally, someone is asking the right questions. Someone who doesn't know about Candace's perfect smile, or her manipulative charm, or her ability to make my son forget that he used to love me more than he feared disappointing her. The federal registration. Of course. How could I have forgotten? When Harold and I built that cabin, we discovered it sat on land that had historical significance, part of an old underground railroad route. The government stepped in to protect it, to preserve it, to make sure it could never be destroyed or sold without proper authorization. Authorization that only I, as the legal owner, could provide. Authorization that Candace never asked for because she never knew it existed. The rage is transforming now, crystallizing into something colder and sharper. This isn't just fury anymore. This is justice materializing in real time, and I can taste the sweetness of it on my tongue like honey mixed with venom. I watch her across the table, still basking in her applause, still radiating that smug satisfaction that comes from thinking you've outmaneuvered someone you consider inferior. She has no idea what's coming. She has no idea that her greed just painted a target on her back that the federal government is already aiming at. The pain is still there, don't misunderstand me. The ache of losing my sanctuary, the betrayal of my son's silence, the devastation of having my grief monetized by someone who's never lost anything that mattered, all of that is still cutting through me like broken glass. But now there's something else mixed in with it. Something that tastes like vindication and feels like the moments before lightning strikes. You see, Candace made one crucial mistake. She assumed my silence meant acceptance. She looked at my quiet grief and mistook it for weakness. She saw an old woman who missed her dead husband and decided I was an easy mark, a pushover, someone who could be managed and manipulated and ultimately erased. She forgot that quiet women are often the most dangerous ones. She forgot that sometimes people stay silent not because they can't fight back, but because they're waiting for the perfect moment to destroy you so completely that you never recover. Week after week, I've watched her take over my son's life like a virus. I've seen her redecorate my memories out of existence, throw away Harold's belongings like they were garbage, convince my boy that modernizing meant erasing everything that came before her. I've sat through dinner after dinner where she speaks about me like I'm not there, where she makes jokes about old people and their outdated sentimentality. I've endured her comments about my appearance, my cooking, my inability to embrace change. I've listened to her explain to friends how difficult it is to manage elderly relatives who cling to the past. I've watched her systematically isolate me from my own son, turning him against the mother who raised him by convincing him that loyalty to her requires betrayal of me. But the cabin was too far. The cabin was sacred ground, and she turned it into a commodity. She took the place where Harold and I carved our initials into the oak tree by the water's edge and sold it like it was nothing more than real estate. She destroyed my sanctuary for $60,000 and called it an improvement. The federal agent is still talking, explaining procedures and timelines and legal consequences that make my head spin with their beautiful complexity. This isn't just about forged signatures, though she certainly did that, didn't she? I can see the papers from here, and that's not my handwriting. My arthritis makes my letters shaky but consistent, and those signatures are too smooth, too confident, too much like someone trying to copy something they've only seen a few times. No, this is about federal property fraud. This is about selling land that belongs to the American people, land protected by laws she never bothered to research because she was too arrogant to think she needed to. This is about wire fraud and forgery and criminal enterprise, and the penalties for those crimes are measured in years, not months. I hang up the phone and walk back to the dinner table where she's still holding court, still accepting congratulations for her theft like she's done something admirable. The rage has settled into something colder now, something that feels like ice water in my veins. I take my seat and fold my hands in my lap and wait. She notices my return, of course. Candace notices everything when it might affect her performance. Mother Whitmore, she says with that patronizing sweetness she uses when she wants to remind everyone how generous she is to tolerate me, I hope you're not upset about the cabin. I know you had sentimental attachment to it, but sometimes we have to make practical decisions for the good of the family. Sentimental attachment. As if love could be dismissed so easily. As if the place where I buried my husband's ashes was just nostalgia that needed to be managed. The rage flares again, hot and immediate, but I keep my voice steady. Oh, Candace, I say quietly, I'm not upset at all. In fact, I think this dinner is about to become much more memorable than you planned. She laughs, that tinkling sound she makes when she thinks she's won something. You're being dramatic, Mother. The cabin needed work anyway. Now we have money for real improvements, things that will actually benefit everyone. Real improvements. Like this catered dinner that probably cost more than most people make in a month. Like the new furniture she bought with money stolen from my inheritance. Like the vacation she's planning to Europe while I eat generic cereal for breakfast because my social security doesn't stretch far enough to cover groceries and medication. But I don't say any of that. I just smile and sip my wine and wait for the sound of engines in the driveway. Government vehicles have a particular rumble. Did you know that? They're heavier than civilian cars, more purposeful. When you've lived as long as I have, you learn to recognize the sound of authority approaching. The pain is still there, cutting through me in waves. Every time I think about the cabin, my cabin, being sold off like junk, every time I remember Harold's hands building those steps where I used to sit and watch the sunrise, every time I picture strangers walking through rooms where we made love and fought and reconciled and dreamed together, the grief threatens to drown me. But the rage is stronger now. The rage is fuel, and it's burning bright enough to light up this entire charade of a family dinner. These people who think they know me, who think they understand what they're dealing with, they're about to learn that underestimating an old woman is a mistake that can cost you everything. My son hasn't said a word since the announcement. He's pushing food around his plate like a guilty child, and every few seconds, he glances at me with eyes that know he's crossed a line he can't uncross. Part of me wants to comfort him, to tell him that mothers forgive their children almost anything. But a larger part of me is too angry to care about his discomfort right now. He chose her. When it came time to decide between his mother's happiness and his wife's greed, he chose her. He watched her destroy my belongings, dismiss my feelings, and isolate me from my own family, and he said nothing. He let her sell my sanctuary because it was easier than standing up to her, easier than remembering that he owes his existence to the woman she treats like a burden. So let him squirm. Let him feel the weight of his betrayal pressing down on his conscience like a stone. Maybe guilt will teach him lessons that love apparently couldn't. The other dinner guests are strangers to me, friends of Candace who've been recruited to witness her triumph. They keep complimenting her business acumen, her ability to streamline family assets, her practical approach to unnecessary sentimentality. Each comment feels like a slap, but I absorb them all because each one will make what's coming even sweeter. You want to know what real rage feels like? It's not the explosive anger you see in movies, all shouting and violence and dramatic gestures. Real rage is patient. Real rage sits quietly and plans carefully and waits for the perfect moment to strike back so devastatingly that your enemy never recovers. Real rage is watching your daughter-in-law celebrate stealing your most precious possession while federal agents are already en route to arrest her for crimes she doesn't even know she's committed. The irony is exquisite, isn't it? She sold my cabin to prove how much smarter she is than this sentimental old woman who actually built it. She committed federal crimes to demonstrate her superior business sense. She destroyed my peace to fund a dinner party where she could brag about how efficiently she disposed of my useless property. And now she's going to prison for it. The rage is mixed with something else now, a dark satisfaction that feels almost sexual in its intensity. Justice delayed is justice denied, they say, but sometimes justice delayed is justice perfected. Sometimes waiting makes the eventual reckoning so much more complete, so much more devastating that it becomes a work of art. I can hear cars pulling into the driveway now. Multiple vehicles, heavy doors slamming, the sound of people who don't need to knock before they enter. Candace hasn't noticed yet. She's too busy accepting praise for her criminal enterprise, but my son has. I can see him tense, can see his eyes dart toward the window, can see the color drain from his face as he realizes that his participation in this theft might have consequences he never considered. Good. Let him realize. Let him understand that enabling evil makes you complicit in it. Let him learn that choosing your wife's approval over your mother's well-being was a decision that will haunt him for years to come. The pain in my chest is getting worse, but it's different now. It's not just grief anymore. It's the ache of betrayal being validated, the agony of discovering that the people you loved most were capable of hurting you in ways you never imagined possible. It's the unique torture of realizing that your own son would rather see you suffer than disappoint his wife. But underneath that pain, something else is growing. Something that feels like rebirth, like phoenix fire, like the moment when you realize you're stronger than the people who tried to break you. They thought my silence meant defeat. They thought my grief made me vulnerable. They thought they could manage me like a problem to be solved. They were wrong about everything. I built that cabin with my own hands and a heart full of love, and they sold it like it was nothing. But they forgot that builders know things about foundations, about structures, about what holds things together, and what makes them fall apart. They forgot that someone who can create something beautiful is usually capable of destroying something ugly just as effectively. The footsteps on the porch are unmistakable now, heavy, authoritative, plural. Government agents don't travel alone, and they don't make social calls. Candace is still talking, still basking in her applause, still completely oblivious to the fact that her world is about to implode with the force of federal justice. My rage has crystallized into something pure and cold and absolutely merciless. This woman destroyed my sanctuary for money. She sold my grief for profit. She turned my love into a transaction and called it progress. She looked at the place where I keep my husband's memory alive and decided it was worth exactly $60,000. She was wrong about that too. According to the federal assessment I received 3 years ago, that cabin and its protected historical status make it worth closer to $400,000. Which means her crime isn't just theft and forgery, it's grand larceny on a federal scale, with mandatory minimum sentences that will ensure she has plenty of time to contemplate her mistakes. The pain is evolving now, transforming from pure grief into something more complex, more layered. Yes, I'm devastated that my sanctuary was violated. Yes, I'm heartbroken that my son betrayed me. Yes, I'm enraged that my most precious possession was treated like garbage to be disposed of. But I'm also experiencing something I haven't felt in years, the satisfaction of watching justice unfold in real time. The vindication of being right about someone's character when everyone else was fooled by their performance. The dark joy of watching arrogance get exactly what it deserves. They're at the door now. I can hear voices, badges being displayed, legal terminology being exchanged. Candace has finally noticed the commotion, and her perfect smile is beginning to crack around the edges as she realizes that unexpected visitors at 9 o'clock at night usually aren't bringing good news. Who could that be? She asks with forced lightness, but I can hear the tremor underneath her words. Some part of her must suspect, some instinct must be screaming that her house of cards is about to collapse. Criminals always know when the reckoning comes, even when they've convinced themselves they're too smart to get caught. I don't answer her question. I just fold my hands in my lap and wait for the show to begin. Because that's what this is going to be, a performance where she discovers that her starring role was always going to end in handcuffs and headlines and federal prison time. The rage has burned away everything except clarity now. I can see this moment with perfect precision, can understand exactly how we arrived here and where we're going next. Candace thought she was the predator in this relationship, thought she was slowly dismantling my life piece by piece until nothing remained but a manageable old woman who knew her place. She was wrong. I was never the prey in this scenario. I was the trap, lying patient and still while she walked into it step by step, choice by choice, crime by crime. And now the trap is closing, and there's nowhere left for her to run. The door is opening now. I can hear official voices, see shadows moving in the hallway, feel the electricity in the air that comes when people's lives are about to change forever. My son is pale as death, his guilt written across his face like a neon sign. The dinner guests are confused, whispering among themselves, wondering if this is some kind of elaborate joke. But I know it's not a joke. I know exactly what's happening and why, and the knowledge fills me with a satisfaction so complete it almost overwhelms the pain. Almost. Because the pain is still there, will always be there, carved into my heart like names on a tombstone. Harold's death, my son's betrayal, the destruction of my sanctuary. These wounds don't heal just because justice arrives. But justice helps. Justice makes the pain bearable by giving it meaning, by transforming suffering into purpose. I didn't lose my cabin for nothing. I lost it so that a criminal could reveal herself completely, so that her true nature could be exposed to everyone who matters, so that the consequences of her actions could be as public and devastating as her crimes deserved.